Now what's going to happen is only the best and the brightest would be eligible for the H1Bs because only a handful of top companies can actually afford to pay the $100,000 fee. When the US begins to realize that this is going to now cost them talent, they're going to see companies shut down, they're going to see startups mushrooming in other parts of the world. I would say at least in 1 year they will start seeing the difference. We could see this happening. China could just make the barriers, which is getting work visas, finding more employment, getting foreigners to come to China. They can just make all of that easier. And suddenly you would see a large number of Indian students heading for China. It's something that we can actually foresee happening in the next 1 to 2 years if China takes the right steps. A large part of the students who want to work abroad, they now are looking at other avenues. The students who want to study in the US and want to go just to top universities and possibly come back to their family businesses, nothing has changed there. But the students who are looking to work abroad, they're looking at other options. For example, we now have students inquiring a lot about Germany. People are once again asking, is Canada still open for them?
Trump administration's decision to increase the H1B visa fee is going to impact a lot of Indian techies who wish to go and work in the United States of America. A lot of worried students here in India. And what are the options that they have now? To discuss all this and more threadbare, I'm being joined by Dr. Karan Gupta. He is an educationist, counselor who speaks to students about how to actually get into in universities such as Harvard. He's an alumnus of Harvard himself. Dr. Gupta, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. Let's begin with your first reaction when you heard of this visa fee hike.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Geeta, for having me. Of course, things have not been easy for students and potential work aspirants. We're talking about 0.6 to 0.8 million H1B visa holders who are impacted with this decision. And we know that each year around 85,000 visas are given. So, and historically, we also know that the chances of getting this visa in the lottery is around 1:7. Now, what's going to happen is only the best and the brightest would be eligible for the H1Bs because only a handful of top companies can actually afford to pay the $100,000 fee. This
That's
also
right.
means that going forward, the rush for H1Bs is going to drastically reduce, and next year there will not even be a lottery system. So, all in all, there is shock, there is disappointment, and things are going to be different for students who want to work in the US from next year.
Okay. But in terms of the kind of concerns and panic that has struck the students right now in India, are you getting calls from students who have been consulting with you as to what to do next and how to go about things?
Absolutely. So, a large part of the students or a large part of the students who want to work abroad, they now are looking at other avenues. The students who want to study in the US and want to go just to top universities and possibly come back to their family businesses, nothing has changed there. But the students who are looking to work abroad, they're looking at other options. For example, we now have students inquiring a lot about Germany. People are once again asking, is Canada still open for them? In Germany, if you just look like a decade ago, you had like what, 24,000 Indians working there. And today we're looking at the number to be nearly at 135,000. Overall, the Indian diaspora in Germany itself is over 300,000. Germany signed that comprehensive migration and mobility partnership with India. They introduced the Skilled Workers Act. Now they have lower barriers to degree recognition, and it's easier to even switch jobs in Germany because what Germany is saying is that we want Indian engineers, IT professionals, healthcare workers. We see a lot of interest in Australia as well. Australia has permanent migration of nearly 185,000 people, and 70% is just for skilled migrants. So
Right.
there are like 300,000 Indians on temporary visas in Australia, students, graduates, young professionals. This means that they already have a strong pipeline feeding into the skilled migration system.
Right. Again, isn't it ironical? You've given us a few of the alternatives, but China is also a massive alternative. It's an alternative where people are and students are looking at China as well. Should they be looking at China? Are there concerns there? And is Trump not pushing Indians to be looking at China, whereas the whole idea was to counter China? Isn't it ironical?
It is ironical for sure, Geeta, no two ways about it. When it comes to students, however, they want a good brand, high quality education, and then, of course, the chance to stay back and work in that country. With China, what's happening is that we have limited global institutes. They can only absorb a limited number of students. There already are so many students from China, Singapore, Hong Kong, etc., who are trying for those institutes. There aren't that many spots left for Indian students. So the admissions are very, very competitive, not necessarily because these institutes are better, but just because the sheer volume, the amount of Indian kids and international kids who are applying to these institutes. So that's one. And two, again, work visas in China are not very easy. Again, in countries like India and China, you already have a very, very large population of people trying for jobs. So we've got to keep this into account when people are looking to apply to universities in China.
Okay, so what are the but jobs still are available. The whole fact is that now we're looking at China opening itself up and inviting people to work in China. When things shut elsewhere, or if there is a demand, Karan, anywhere in the world, China gets up and overnight builds that infrastructure. That's how resilient and strong they are when it comes to building infrastructure. What stops them from building that same infrastructure to invite techies from India and many other countries that would be suffering at the hands of this latest decision by Trump?
You know, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and it can actually happen. If anything has taught us in the last 1 year in terms of policy changes across the US and across different parts of the world, we could see this happening. China could just make the barriers, which is getting work visas, finding more employment, getting foreigners to come to China. They can just make all of that easier. And suddenly you would see a large number of Indian students heading for China. It's something that we can actually foresee happening in the next 1 to 2 years if China takes the right steps.
Okay. In terms of the countries, if you could just tell us exactly what are the top countries that now students who've passed out and are seeking jobs are looking at? I mean,
So,
countries in Europe, countries, there are Scandinavian countries, there are some in the Americas, particularly Canada, and then you're talking about Australia as well and New Zealand.
so I would say that Europe is a really big attraction for students right now. Germany has been making things really easy. They're on a great public relations campaign right now,
Hmm.
actively saying we want Indian engineers, IT professionals, healthcare workers. That's helping the psychological morale. People are interested in going to Germany. Spain and Portugal are giving visas like startup visas, job seeker visas. There are more and more international universities coming up there. So Europe is a very big draw. UK recently, as recently as yesterday, announced that they'd be more than happy to take highly skilled workers in. Every country is trying to now say that, well, if you're not welcome in the US because of the H1B visas, you will be welcome in our countries. And UK is jumping that ship as well.
Including Dubai, Karan. Dubai also has become one of those cities that is really, really inviting foreigners to come work there, including those in the startup industry.
That is a really great point, Geeta, because even a lot of students want to study in Dubai because parents find it safe. It's close to home. You can have health in Dubai. Things are very easy there. So we do have a lot of British universities, a lot of Australian universities in Dubai. And now Dubai is making visas easier. So you, of course, heard of the golden visas, the long term visas. And because Dubai is diversifying into technology, finance, fintech, startups, we are seeing a lot of interest in the UAE and Dubai, of course. In addition to that, I would say Australia, certainly. Canada, again, we're looking at interest in Canada because Canada, again, has the express entry, the provincial nominee programs. They want highly skilled professionals. And when students are seeing that US does not have visas for them, Canada does come into play because of the close proximity. Canada even has a program where they take in H1B visa holders who could not procure the actual H1B visa but were eligible. They can apply to Canada for a visa.
That's very interesting. That's actually very interesting. But in terms of implications, if you're studying what is really happening, the implications are not just for India, Karan, they're also for America. What do you think? What's your reading on how and in how long will America start feeling that pinch and the impact?
The impact that the US would feel when they lose out on highly skilled workers would be as early as 1 year from now. When they realize that talent, which is contributing to the economy, which is helping you run the best companies in the US, the startups, the whole Silicon Valley startup culture is headed by Indians and of course people of other nationality as well, but largely Indians. When the US begins to realize that this is going to now cost them talent, they're going to see companies shut down, they're going to see startups mushrooming in other parts of the world. I would say at least in 1 year, they would start seeing the difference.
Okay. In a year's time, they'll start seeing the difference. But for now, it is going to be a very difficult 1 year. And those who are passing out now and are seeking jobs, for them, life is going to be difficult. But again, before I let you go, Dr. Gupta, last question. Do you think a lot of them who might win the lottery will pay up? And that Trump will, or Howard Lutnick, whose brainchild I think this really is going to see, we said this is the cap and that you'll have to pay up, and everybody's paying up. Whether they have to sell a house or a piece of land here, they will pay up to go to America because they know that opportunities in India are far lesser right now, as of now.
I think, Geeta, this boils down to talent and how specialized your skill is and how much money you're going to make. Today, if you are, graduating with a master's or a PhD in a really good field, giving you a salary of $300,000 a year, you probably will pay the 100,000 yourself to take that job because it's worth your time. If you're making 200K a year, even 150,000 a year, you may still agree to pay the 100,000. The problem arises is that if you are not skilled and you're just coming as a company transfer employee and your salary is $70,000 a year, then this 100K doesn't make sense at all. And that's where the impact is going to come in. So I still think that you're going to get a lot of people applying for the H1B visas. It's not dead. People will apply. But the dynamics have changed. The kind of students and this kind of workers who are going to apply for these visas, that's changed. And that's the difference you're going to see next year.
Very interesting. So you will have more high skilled labor or high skilled workers leaving India because they will be eligible for the H1B rather than those who are in the 65,000 category and less. And they will pay up. Is it okay, or it might be immoral but not illegal for companies to ask individuals to pay the 100,000 fee?
Absolutely. It's legally perfectly valid. They can tell the workers that, well, you know what, over the next 3 years, because it's a 3 year validity, we're going to cut $33,000 per year from your salary, and that's how you're going to stay employed with us.
And renewals don't have the same fee. Renewal is okay.
Yeah,
It's
and
not the same fee.
as of now, they've clarified that the renewal does not carry the fee, and this is a one-time fee. However, as we know, rules keep changing, and the administration changes rules pretty often. So we have to wait and watch next year if there are any more changes to the one-time fee.
But even if the rules don't change, it is a masterstroke because at the end of the day, the cap is not decreasing. The cap remains the same, and the cap will be filled. There will be people who will be wanting to go to America. It'll just be a very high skilled workforce, which means we should be fearing massive brain drain from India. They will be eligible for these high skilled jobs rather than the 65,000 to 100,000 bracket workforce going into the United States of America. So brain drain plus Trump getting what he wants. That's troubling in a way, but it will be a win-win for the Trump administration, Karan.
As well as the students, Geeta. See, students, if you go to think of it, they benefit from this legislature because they now are going to be getting these visas more easily because the competition is reduced.
Yes, because if they're Ivy League students, they'll be absorbed from the United States of America itself.
Correct.
Oh, that's actually you're putting a different twist. We all started thinking of it as how it's going to play out, who's going to get it. But I think the danger lies for India in losing more bright, brilliant minds to the United States of America and mediocrity staying back. When I say mediocrity, it's not an insult. I'm not saying they're not bright. I'm just saying they're not as bright as the high-tech workforce that America wants to invite from India. And on the other hand, that entire 85,000 cap will still be less because people will still want to go and they will pay up, Karan.
That is correct, yes.
So it does seem like Lutnick is going to have the last laugh on this one, whether one likes it or not. And what is very sad about this is that it is happening and no future administration is going to revoke this. Right. They might object to it now, but they'll see the money come in and there's going to be no revocation even if Trump is no longer the president.
But again, we're talking just of the H1B visa. You do know that there was if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the Integrity Act, which was proposed by both the Democrats and the Republicans together, a bipartisan law, which basically one of the stipulations was that the highly skilled student who's a foreigner but done a STEM course with a master's or a PhD level, they should be eligible for a green card directly. So they're still trying to introduce laws trying to hold back good talent in the US. So this may be the H1B story right now, but I feel that there may be more such legislations being passed which would allow them to retain talent. The US is not going to lose out on good.
That's the whole point, Karan. STEM is a very small percentage because they're really bright, and not all Indians take to STEM. And even if they get their green cards, there is so much from the Ivy Leagues, whether they're psychologists, political science students, history, finance, big. They're all going to be a part of the H1B category and will get it easier than they did before, because in the lottery, the chance now becomes the chances are way higher now than ever before.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So, Karan, thank you so much for joining us and breaking this down for our viewers, because this really needed some understanding. It's not bad news for those who are in the high-skilled workforce. Chances for you increase. Most of them might end up having a deal with their employers and pay up the H1B visa fee. So it does mean that end of the year, Trump will have something to show for when it comes to the Congress and the government and the opposition. Dr. Karan Gupta, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Geeta.